faithfully delivering value and interpreting great books worldwide.
Hello, this is Sally telling stories.
Today, I'm sharing a book titled Art as Therapy. In our minds, art and philosophy seem like lofty subjects in ivory towers, detached from everyday life and unreachable. But this book introduces art from a fresh angle. It tells us that art isn't just flashy decor, but a tool that brings comfort to life. The main author is the renowned British philosopher Alain de Botton. He graduated from Cambridge University's history department, speaks multiple languages like English, French, German, and Spanish, and deeply grasps European humanistic traditions. And he wrote bestsellers like The Art of Travel and Status Anxiety, blending philosophy, art, and daily life. His writing appeals to all tastes and has been translated into over 20 languages. D. Botton. His attitude toward art and philosophy has always been clear. They should connect with social life. The Botton. His books carry this view forward, and Art as Therapy starts from art, weaving in the Botton's thoughts on art and life over 20 years. Its English name is Art as Therapy. Therapy means treatment, a medical term like physical therapy or psychotherapy. So the literal translation is art as a therapy. How can art be therapy? This is because, in de Botton's view, just as physical flaws are treated medically, some mental and spiritual flaws can be treated through art, and only art can do it. And so, much of the book's content comes from art articles de Botton posted on his personal website. While compiling it, he organized the content and gave it a philosophical name, methodology.
He then added his earlier art critiques on various paintings.
With help from co-author Professor John Armstrong of the University of Melbourne, they added beautiful illustrations and structured it around 4 domains: love, nature, economy, and politics. This is art as therapy. This is the book's framework. Next, I'll mainly follow the Botton's outline in methodology to explain the core content with art critiques from the book. The case is divided into 2 parts. First, what are the therapeutic functions of art? Second, based on these functions, how should we evaluate the creation and display of artworks? Let's begin with the first part, the therapeutic functions of art. As mentioned earlier, de Botton believes that just like our bodies, the human mind and spirit are imperfect with many flaws, and art can help us address these defects and heal our spirits. The author categorizes art's therapeutic functions into 7 types. First is memory, which addresses the flaw of human forgetfulness. Some might ask, is forgetfulness really a flaw? De Botton argues that we shouldn't ignore the problems caused by forgetfulness just because it's commonplace. Collectively, forgetfulness leads to historical nihilism. Personally, forgetting important things makes us feel spiritually empty and sad, especially fleeting sensory experiences like smells, touches, or sights. When we can't grasp them, we feel a profound sense of loss. Art can preserve these precious things. A famous 18th century painting vividly shows how art helps resist forgetfulness. It depicts a man and woman dressed as shepherds. The man leans against a stone pier on the right, while the woman sits sideways on the left, sketching the outline of his shadow on a rock with a charred twig. Through careful observation, we see their lovers. The man must travel far to tend sheep. Before parting, the woman captures her lover through drawing, so even when he's gone, she can recall his nose's shape, hair's curls, and body's contours through this artwork.
Guess what this painting is called?
It's the origin of painting. Human life is finite, and so is memory. Painting helps humans transcend limitations to pursue eternal remembrance. How do artists achieve this? Transforming reality into art isn't something everyone masters. De Botton says artists possess the skill to record what deserves commemoration and exclude the unimportant. Dutch painter Vermeer excelled at selecting and portraying the essential. His most famous work is, of course, Girl with a Pearl Earring. But today, we're talking about another painting of his named Woman in Blue, Reading a Letter. In this painting, there's a woman in blue clothes. She stands in front of a table facing us sideways, deeply engrossed in reading a letter.
Her eyes are fixed on the letter, but her gaze isn't fully focused on the paper. It seems she's lost in thought, dreaming of someone or something far away.
She's not holding the letter casually. Instead, her hands are slightly clenched into fists, gripping it tightly, and her mouth is slightly open. Anyone can see how important this letter is to her. So, this is the skill of a professional painter, capturing those elusive details of memory that are hard to picture in our minds, helping us fight forgetfulness.
Now, let's move to the second function of art, hope. It addresses the human flaw of pessimism, and hope is crucial for people.
Without hope, people become pessimistic, avoid challenges, and their motivation drops. Then everything just gets worse. But with hope, it keeps people optimistic.
Like Felix Felicis in Harry Potter, it seems everything goes smoothly.
But the flaw in the human brain is that hope doesn't just happen for no reason. It always comes from external things. So we need some tool to spark hope.
The Botton says art is such a perfect tool, and Monet's paintings are a great example. When we talk about Monet, we think of his masterpiece with soft, lively lines and colors that seem both real and painted. That hazy and beautiful style of water lilies shows up in almost all of Monet's paintings. In his work, gardens with ponds are covered in a cozy layer of green shade. Weeping willows droop by the shore. A misty fog looms faintly. Sometimes, an exquisite Japanese arched bridge spans the pond, casting a charming reflection in the water. The scenery around the pond and the shimmering reflections on it blend perfectly, wrapped in soft light and shadow. Such paintings have a power that makes you want to linger. It's like your inner self can briefly escape life's troubles, enter the ideal world in the art, where your carefree spirit awakens and you feel an incredible freedom and ease. Oh, of course, some critics say that if art only depicts beautiful ideals, it detaches from reality, trapping us in a dreamy haze, unable to face life's ugliness. But de Botton says this view is very one-sided. As de Botton wrote, if the world weren't so harsh, we wouldn't feel so strongly about pleasing artworks or have such great need for them. A clear example of this need in the West is Virgin Mary statues. There are many sculptures in the West depicting the smiling Virgin Mary. When gazing at these statues, you can't help but feel a silent surge of emotion. Smiles are everywhere, yet hers is special. Why is the Virgin Mary's smile so deeply moving? Because her beauty evokes complex emotions. We feel her smile radiates compassion and acceptance that soothes our spirits. Yet subconsciously, we know our own lives aren't so perfect, which brings frustration. De Botton says, as experienced adults, we know such smiles rarely appear in adult joy. Unlike children's innocent joy, adult joy carries sorrow. We've known life's hardships. Precisely because we understand life's struggles, beauty holds such power. That's what the Virgin Mary gives us. She makes us feel that even in hardship, our hearts hold infinite hope. Now, the third function of art, translated as sorrow in Chinese, actually the original term describes a wistful mood. Since Chinese lacks an exact equivalent, sorrow was used, which raises the question, what can sorrow heal? Suffering. Suffering pains us because we believe it's uniquely ours, endlessly magnifying it until it dominates our world. Thus comes loneliness and self-pity. But art's sublime beauty liberates us from narrow self-pity. For example, artists often depict grand scenes, majestic stars, oceans, mountains, or canyons. Facing such works, we first feel human insignificance. Yet we tiny humans observe, remember, and through art, condense nature's grandeur into paintings before our eyes. Such appreciation brings a subtle sorrow from the contrast between smallness and grandeur, while also evoking a sense of humanity's transcendence in the world. In other words, compared to eternal nature, our sufferings are trivial and insignificant, and self-pity seems narrow and laughable. Moreover, even such magnificent nature can be grasped and overcome by humans. So what do our petty difficulties amount to? The strength to overcome obstacles emerges at this moment. German romantic landscape painter Caspar David Friedrich has a painting called The Sea of Ice, featuring vast gray-blue skies and dim clouds dominating the top, with the blue sea below. Where sky and water meet, a rugged reef stands at the center. The brilliance of this painting is that it doesn't directly show daily pressures and worries, but transforms them into a reef in the sea. Although it towers at the very center, over time, the waves crashing against the shore will eventually erode it away. Thus, when viewing this painting, the audience first feels their own insignificance under the vastness of sea and sky, yet simultaneously surges with a transcendent power, leading to a state of sadness without melancholy. Daily desires gradually fade away, leaving only a diluted trace of sorrow. In this mental state, we become better equipped to solve our problems. Well, this ability to confront problems and sorrow is precisely how art heals suffering. Okay, let's move on to the fourth function of art, balance. Here, balance refers to maintaining equilibrium between human society and nature. The development of human society brings civilized life. We must follow various rules and rational demands, while nature is romantic, free, emotional, and unrestrained. Relying solely on reason makes one suffer like a wound upspring. Relying solely on emotion could make our social life chaotic. Either extreme makes people prone to impulsiveness and loss of control, failing to maintain balance between human society and nature. Maintaining balance between reason and emotion is the fourth function of art. Along the Fox River in the United States, there stands a famous building with a spacious bedroom, large floor-to-ceiling windows in front of the bed, two black leather sofas, a rustic wooden coffee table, a green oak tree outside the window, and the gradually darkening sky. This is the famous private residence designed by German-American architect Mies van der Rohe for Dr. Farnsworth, featuring a single-story steel structure. Except for the bathroom, all walls use transparent glass. No closets, no extra decorations, just bright transparency, blending with the beautiful natural surroundings. Whether living in or just appreciating such architecture, it brings deep physical and mental relaxation. It represents not just simple living, but provides space for solitude, letting us temporarily escape urban chaos to meditate, bringing body closer to nature and mind closer to self. This is architecture's power to maintain balance. Not just individuals, entire societies can find balance through art. German poet-philosopher Schiller once asked, "Why did ancient Greek artists rarely depict landscapes?" Because Greeks spent days outdoors in coastal or mountain towns. Nature surrounded them. Art that maintains personal balance, thus naturally serves moral education in society. Take the famous painting The Last Judgment, which horrifyingly depicts ghouls. Naked people boil in flaming cauldrons while a ghoul's mouth protrudes with a half-eaten leg. Artists portrayed hell so vividly to instill extreme fear, making people realize moral violations' consequences, urging self-restraint to avoid such fates. When everyone maintains inner balance and controls emotions and actions, society's morality naturally rises. Next is art's fifth function, self-knowledge, addressing our difficulty in understanding ourselves. For example, American artist C. Twombly has a painting called Panorama. Yes, like a photographic panorama. At first glance, it's just a blank black frosted glass. But on closer look, the glass reveals countless fine scratches, like a centuries-old chalkboard. It's treasured as art because it precisely captures a psychological experience. The black frosted glass mirrors our inner selves, while its countless hair-thin scratches represent our chaotic emotions and thoughts, appearing fleetingly, then vanishing. Before you can grasp them, they float away like whispers, leaving only ghostly traces. Our minds constantly overflow with thoughts and emotions. This frosted glass is a true panorama of our inner world. Thus, de Botton believes, panorama helps viewers visually understand their psyche, sense emotional nuances, and perceive thought struggles, deepening self-knowledge. Art not only fosters self-knowledge, but communicates it beyond language's reach. Say you once strolled lakeside on a warm afternoon, utterly blissful.
Later, trying to share that feeling with a friend, words just fall short.
But a painting captures it. A boat docked at Rosy Harbor, crew slowly furling sails. On shore, a child plays with an oar while women in bright headscarves chat. That gentle, quiet light feels so familiar, like your lakeside moment. You'd point and say, I felt this exact thing. This masterpiece is View from Daseringen near Oosterbro by 19th century Danish painter Christian Kobke. The art we display at home, it's trying to convey our personality beyond words. That's why we cherish certain plates. Our preference holds unspoken feelings. This plate reflects my deepest self. Art lets us know ourselves and helps others truly see us. Now, art's sixth function, growth, countering our bias toward prejudice. In other words, we're easily trapped by past experiences, forming biases and stereotypes. How does art help us overcome these biases? Through defamiliarization, what does that mean? For example, at an African tribal artifact exhibition, a grotesque African mask displayed might make viewers uncomfortable immediately, though they can't pinpoint why, likely due to unfamiliarity from rarely encountering such objects daily. But when skillfully questioned after reflection, some viewers might recall a primitive tribe novel they read years ago that evoked fear and unfamiliarity, shaping their reaction to the mask. And so, in other words, art's strangeness always stirs unique emotions within us. It jolts us from monotonous routines, revealing the world's diversity. Back to the mask, curators chose it precisely for its unfamiliarity's impact. But the issue, only a small label with name and date accompanies it, no further guidance. This creates a potential issue. When viewers reject their unfamiliar feelings, they breeze past exhibits, missing precious art experiences and self-discovery, and growth opportunities from broader perspectives. So how should viewers approach this? First, crucially, embrace rather than deny these feelings. Second, find overlap with the artist's values or life experiences. Take this African mask. Its creator deeply believed in spiritual forces, using it to commune with deities. Though viewers may have different beliefs, even atheists, they've likely experienced panic or despair. In those moments, haven't we all craved a comforting voice to bring peace? Understanding this, the mask's spiritual essence becomes accessible, a blend of awe and intimacy. Thus, viewers integrate art appreciation into their life experiences, taking another step forward in understanding the world. Okay, finally we come to art's seventh function, appreciation, primarily addressing modern life. Modern society offers immense material wealth, yet our lives become increasingly urbanized, confined by civilization's products like private property, clocks, restaurants, and factories, trapping us in monotonous routines. The consequence, our sense of existence grows increasingly faint. Like Heidegger described, we become weightless reeds, but art helps us discover life's gravity in the everyday, profoundly sensing our existence and happiness. For example, you buy a beer at the supermarket, drink it, and discard the can. But if you see two carefully displayed beer cans in a gallery, you'd notice their elegant logos and alluring proportions, details normally ignored. If those cans move you, apply this mindset to overlooked things. See clouds, room arrangements, daily architecture, or a loved one's expression with fresh eyes. That's art's magic. It heals anxieties of mundane life, highlighting neglected beauty. Okay, that concludes part one. Art has 7 core functions: memory, hope, sorrow, rebalancing, self-knowledge, growth, and appreciation, each addressing a psychological flaw. Now, for part 2, how should we evaluate creating and displaying art to maximize its healing power? First, how to assess art. What makes it valuable?
Art history offers many criteria: technical skill, masterful brushwork, lighting,
Or historical significance, depicting or explaining events accurately. Interestingly, the shock theory deserves its own discussion.
He believes that outstanding artworks always shock people, but after the shock, There's a quality that draws you back repeatedly, thereby breaking a certain prejudice.
For example, an artist once painted a portrait of the Virgin Mary with a broad nose, black skin, thick lips, and used dried elephant dung as paint to depict her breasts.
This painting sparked controversy worldwide and was even vandalized with white paint by a viewer in protest.
But from the shop perspective, this is a brilliant artwork, because it proves that the Virgin Mary doesn't have to be white, and discriminating against black women is less valuable than dung, which at least can be used for creation. And racial discrimination is meaningless. This was the shock theory that gained popularity historically.
However, de Botton disagrees with all these viewpoints.
He believes that assessing art's value should start from its therapeutic function. At the micro level, meaning individual artworks, we must emphasize their healing effects on people. This part has been detailed earlier. And at the macro level, de Botton thinks an artwork's value depends on whether it corrects the flaws of capitalism. The meaning of flaws here is very rich. De Botton focuses on discussing this from economic and political perspectives. Economically, he believes capitalism brings wealth, but also issues with taste. This is because wealthy people might eagerly pursue the wrong things. For example, Las Vegas casinos are lavishly decorated but lack beauty, instead showing very tacky taste. So, how does art cure this flaw? De Botton says that if ordinary consumers' taste can be elevated through artists' efforts, then this taste can influence the flow and direction of capital. The car industry is a great example of this. Today, many cars' designs can be called artworks, and interior comfort and aesthetics are constantly improving. This is because critics persistently cultivate public taste, telling people what makes a good car, making them notice transmission systems, styling, even dashboard designs, and so on.
And as consumers' taste improves, it drives continuous innovation in the car industry.
Now, regarding politics, de Botton believes capitalism inevitably causes exploitation. Good art should diagnose social issues, offering sharp reminders through artistic creation. For example, in late 19th century Belgium, rural poverty was severe. A painting called The Beet Harvest depicted farmers laboring in freezing winter fields. The large-scale work created intense realism, making viewers deeply feel the farmers' cold, back-breaking toil. Its purpose was forcing society to notice suffering, prompting powerful figures to feel guilty and take action, healing individuals and correcting society. That's de Botton's artistic value. So, how should artists create such valuable work? De Botton traces history. Greco-Roman artists believed in mystical inspiration. Medieval churches used art as propaganda requiring Christian compliance. Today, art shouldn't be propaganda or random inspiration, but guided by human needs. Take the sorrow function. Marital relationships often fuel such melancholy. Like the ending of Qian Zhongshu's novel, Fortress Besieged. Fang Hongjin returns exhausted to hear his wife complaining about him to others, sparking argument.
Fang inwardly wants to apologize but misses his chance. Conflict escalates until his wife slams the door.
Daily trivialities, like rice, oil, salt, inevitably cause marital friction. De Botton argues this is when art should rekindle the couple's love. Pisano's painting Pastoral, set in antiquity, portrays lovers. The woman lies in grass. Her lowered head and closed eyes show deep sleep. The man sits beside her, gazing affectionately. Her left hand lifts as if to touch him, but ultimately doesn't reach out. De Botton says couples together for years may struggle to recapture the sweet surprises of early romance. So, they clearly need art to rekindle tender affection for each other. Finally, let's discuss art display to maximize healing. Modern museums often fail visitors in two key ways. First, excessive academic focus on movements and provenance overwhelms visitors, implying deep knowledge is required. The museum feels like a lifeless library flaunting collections. Second, like the African mask exhibit earlier, they neglect guiding inner emotions, blocking art's therapeutic power. So what's the solution? De Botton found inspiration in a Venetian church.
At Venice's Franciscan Church, diverse artworks, paintings, frescoes, carvings, share space to create harmony, helping worshippers find peace through eternal religious values.
Inspired, the Botton proposes grouping art by therapeutic function, not era or style, in exhibitions. For example, suffering-themed art on floor 1, balance-focused pieces on 2, self-knowledge works on 3. This transforms museums into healing spaces. The focus shifts from teaching art appreciation to feeling artists' expressed emotions. This subtle shift is vital. All right, that concludes the book's main content. De Botton fiercely challenges art for art's sake with this book. He argues artists who elevate art to elitist mystery suffocate its vitality, making it fragile. Admitting that art is a tool is nothing to be ashamed of. As a healing tool, the functions of art can be clearly explained. Artists should create following this approach, and galleries should set up based on this functional explanation, so art genuinely becomes part of everyday life. All right, that's all for our interpretation of the consolations of art. Reading notes are below the audio, and we'll see you next time.